You're not executive material, Claire. Those 5 words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I sat frozen in the glass-walled conference room on the 32nd floor of Robinson and Associates, watching my boss Dennis Ross shuffle papers with the casual indifference of someone discussing the weather. Outside, Chicago's skyline glittered in the afternoon sun, but inside, my world was crumbling. I don't understand, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. My numbers are the highest in the department. I've brought in 12 new clients this quarter alone. Dennis didn't even look up. Performance isn't everything, Claire. Leadership requires a certain presence. You're too soft, too accommodating. Executive positions demand someone who can make the tough decisions without getting emotional. Emotional. There it was. The word that had followed me through 8 years of climbing the corporate ladder, clawing my way up from junior analyst to senior marketing director. Every time I advocated for my team, every time I showed empathy for a struggling employee, every time I dared to suggest a more collaborative approach, it was dismissed as being too emotional. I've been preparing for this promotion for 2 years, I said, my hands trembling slightly as I placed them flat on the mahogany table. I've completed the executive training program. I've mentored junior staff. I've increased department revenue by 40%. And that's exactly why we're keeping you where you are. Dennis finally looked at me, his pale blue eyes cold and calculating. You're valuable in your current role. Samuel Murphy will be taking over as VP of Marketing. He has the right mindset for executive leadership. Samuel Murphy, the man who'd been with the company for 6 months, who'd stolen my client presentation last month and presented it as his own, who'd taken credit for the marketing campaign I'd spent countless nights perfecting. The man who'd never missed an opportunity to interrupt me in meetings or explain my own ideas back to me. This is about the Henderson account, isn't it? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. You're punishing me because I refused to manipulate those numbers. Dennis's expression hardened. Careful, Claire. Your tendency to overthink ethical considerations is exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes leadership means making compromises. Compromises. Like falsifying client satisfaction scores to secure a multi-million-dollar contract. Like turning a blind eye to the toxic work environment that had driven 3 talented women from our team in the past year. Like staying silent when I knew our latest product launch was based on misleading market research. I need some air, I said, standing abruptly. The room felt suffocating, the weight of 8 years of ambition and sacrifice pressing down on me like a physical force. Take the rest of the day, Dennis said, already turning back to his papers. And, Claire, I hope you'll reconsider your attitude. There's still room for growth in your current position. I walked out of that conference room feeling like I was underwater, everything muffled and distant. The elevator ride to the lobby felt endless, each floor marking another piece of my shattered dreams. In the marble-floored lobby, I caught my reflection in the polished surface, a 34-year-old woman in a navy blazer and sensible heels, looking like she'd been hit by a truck. My phone buzzed as I stepped onto the busy Chicago street. A text from my sister Patricia. How did the meeting go? Are we celebrating tonight? I stared at the message, my vision blurring. How could I explain that 8 years of working 60-hour weeks, of missing family dinners and birthday parties, of sacrificing relationships and personal dreams, had led to this moment? How could I tell her that I'd been passed over for a promotion that should have been mine, given to a man who embodied everything wrong with corporate culture? The autumn wind whipped through downtown Chicago, carrying with it the scent of fallen leaves and the distant aroma of coffee from a nearby cafe. I pulled my coat tighter and started walking, not sure where I was going, only knowing I couldn't go back to that office today. As I walked, Dennis's words echoed in my mind. You're not executive material. But deep down, something else was stirring. Not just hurt or disappointment, but something fiercer. Something that whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was about to be very, very wrong. 3 days later, I was still in my pajamas at 2 p.m, surrounded by empty coffee cups and crumpled tissues, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Claire Robinson? The voice was crisp, professional, unmistakably confident. Yes, this is Claire. My name is Evelyn Patel. I'm a partner at Venture Capital Associates. I've been following your work at Robinson and Associates, and I'd like to discuss a potential opportunity with you. I sat up straighter on my couch, pushing aside the blanket I'd been wrapped in like a cocoon of self-pity. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that?" "I represent a group of investors who are very interested in your strategic vision. We've been tracking the marketing campaigns you've developed over the past 3 years. The Henderson account strategy in particular caught our attention." My heart started pounding. The Henderson account, the same one Dennis had wanted me to manipulate. "How do you know about that?" "We do our research thoroughly, Ms. Robinson. We know about your ethical stance on that account, and we know about your recent career developments at Robinson and Associates." I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "You know about the promotion? We know you were passed over for someone far less qualified." Evelyn's voice carried a note of steel. "We also know why. And frankly, it's exactly the kind of integrity-driven leadership we're looking for." I stood up, pacing to the window of my small Lincoln Park apartment. Below, people hurried along the sidewalk, bundled in coats against the October chill. "I don't understand. What kind of opportunity?" "We're backing a new marketing consultancy focused on ethical business practices and authentic brand development. We need someone to lead it. Someone who won't compromise their values for short-term gains." The words hit me like lightning. "You want me to run a consultancy?" "We want you to build one from the ground up. We've seen your work, Claire. The way you've increased client satisfaction while maintaining ethical standards. The way you've developed innovative campaigns that actually serve the customer, not just the bottom line. That's the future of marketing." I sank into my armchair, my mind reeling. This is incredible timing. "But I have to ask, how do you know so much about my work? Some of those campaigns weren't even public." There was a pause. "We have sources in the industry, people who believe in what you're doing. Let's just say you've made more of an impression than you realize." "Sources?" "Margaret Thomas, for one. She left Robinson and Associates last year, but she's been very vocal about your leadership style and the toxic environment that drove her away. She's actually the one who first brought you to our attention." Margaret. I remembered her. A brilliant analyst who'd quit suddenly after Dennis had publicly berated her for questioning a client strategy. She'd tried to talk to me before she left, but I'd been too focused on my own career trajectory to really listen. "We'd like to meet with you tomorrow," Evelyn continued. "Our offices are downtown, not far from where you used to work. Are you available at 10 a.m.? Yes. Yes, I'm available." "Excellent. One more thing, Claire. We've been watching this industry for a long time. We've seen too many talented people, particularly women, get pushed aside by companies that are more interested in maintaining the status quo than in actual innovation. We're looking to change that." After she hung up, I sat in stunned silence. For the first time in 3 days, I felt something other than despair. I felt possibility. I called my sister Patricia. "Claire, I've been worried sick. Are you okay?" "Pat, something incredible just happened." I told her about the call, about the opportunity, about the chance to build something from scratch. "This sounds too good to be true," she said, her voice cautious. "Are you sure this is legitimate? I'm going to find out tomorrow." "But Pat, what if it's real? What if getting passed over at Robinson and Associates was the best thing that could have happened to me? Then I'd say Dennis Ross just made the biggest mistake of his career." As I hung up, I caught sight of myself in the hallway mirror. For the first time in days, I looked like myself again. Not the broken woman who'd walked out of that conference room, but someone with purpose, someone with a future. I had 18 hours to prepare for the most important meeting of my life, and for the first time in 3 days, I couldn't wait to get started. The offices of Venture Capital Associates occupied 2 floors of a gleaming tower in Chicago's financial district. As I stepped off the elevator, I was struck by how different it felt from Robinson and Associates. Where my old office had been all sharp angles and cold marble, this space felt warm and inviting, with natural light flooding through floor-to-ceiling windows. Evelyn Patel met me in the lobby, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. She wore a tailored burgundy suit and carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd earned her place at the table. "Claire, thank you for coming. I hope you don't mind, but I've invited a few colleagues to join us. This opportunity is bigger than I initially mentioned." She led me into a conference room where 3 people waited. I recognized one immediately, Margaret Thomas, looking more relaxed and confident than I'd ever seen her at Robinson and Associates. "Margaret," I said, genuinely surprised. I had no idea you were involved in this. Claire, she stood and hugged me. I'm so glad you're here. I've been hoping for this moment for months. Evelyn introduced the others. Justin Wilson, a marketing technology specialist who'd built and sold 2 successful startups, and Lucy Stewart, a former Fortune 500 executive who now focused on sustainable business practices. Claire, Evelyn began as we settled around the table. Let me be direct about what we're proposing. We want to back you in creating a marketing consultancy that operates on a fundamentally different model than what exists in the market today. She slid a folder across the table. We're prepared to offer $2 million in initial funding, with additional rounds based on performance milestones. But this isn't just about money. It's about changing an entire industry. I opened the folder, my hands trembling slightly. The numbers were staggering. What exactly would this consultancy do? Everything you've been trying to do at Robinson & Associates, but without the constraints of corporate politics, Lucy answered. Authentic brand development, ethical marketing practices, campaigns that actually serve consumers instead of manipulating them. We've identified a gap in the market, Justin added. Companies are starting to realize that traditional marketing tactics are backfiring. Consumers are smarter, more skeptical. They want authenticity, and they can spot manipulation from a mile away. Margaret leaned forward. Claire, do you remember the campaign you developed for the Johnson Wellness brand? The one where you insisted on using real customer testimonials instead of paid actors? Of course. Dennis said it was too risky. It increased their customer retention by 60% and generated more organic word of mouth than any campaign in their history. That's the kind of work we want to support. Evelyn pulled out a tablet and showed me a presentation. We've been analyzing your work for the past 2 years. Every campaign you've led has outperformed industry standards in terms of long-term customer engagement and brand loyalty. The problem is, you've been working within systems that prioritize short-term profits over sustainable growth. What would be different about this consultancy? I asked. You'd have complete creative control, Evelyn said. No interference from executives who don't understand marketing. No pressure to compromise your ethics for quarterly numbers. And most importantly, you'd be working with clients who actually want to build authentic relationships with their customers. We already have 3 major clients lined up, Lucy added. Companies that have been burned by traditional marketing agencies and are looking for a different approach. I looked around the table at these 4 accomplished professionals, all of whom seemed to believe in me more than I believed in myself. Why me? There are plenty of marketing executives with more experience, more connections. Because you're the only one who walked away from a lucrative promotion rather than compromise your values, Margaret said quietly. Because you're the only one who consistently put long-term success over short-term gains. Because you're the only one who saw the people behind the numbers. And because, Evelyn added with a smile, you're about to prove that Dennis Ross was spectacularly wrong about what makes someone executive material. The room fell silent as I processed everything. This wasn't just a job offer. It was a chance to build something meaningful, to create the kind of company I'd always dreamed of working for. There's one more thing, Evelyn said. We want to make an offer to several other talented professionals who've been overlooked by traditional firms. People like Margaret, who left Robinson & Associates because of the toxic culture. This isn't just about you. It's about creating a place where ethical, innovative marketing can thrive. I thought about Dennis's words. You're not executive material. I thought about Samuel Murphy, sitting in the office that should have been mine. I thought about all the compromises I'd watched good people make, all the talent I'd seen wasted in service of outdated corporate structures. When do we start? I asked. The smiles around the table were radiant. How about Monday? Evelyn said. As I signed the preliminary agreements, I realized that the worst moment of my career had just become the beginning of something extraordinary. Dennis Ross had been right about one thing. I wasn't executive material for his company. I was something much better. I was about to become an entrepreneur. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of Robinson & Associates, waiting for Dennis Ross. But this time, I wasn't there as an employee. I was there as the CEO of Authenticity Marketing Solutions, and I was about to steal his biggest client. The company Margaret, Justin, Lucy, and I had built was exceeding every projection. We'd landed 12 major clients in our first quarter. including 2 Fortune 500 companies that had specifically sought us out after hearing about our ethical approach to marketing. Our revenue projections for year 1 had been shattered by month 4. "Claire?" Dennis appeared at the elevator, looking older than I remembered. His face showed surprise, then confusion, then what looked like concern. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here for the Meridian Industries meeting," I said, adjusting my new business card holder. "I assume you got their message about exploring new representation?" His face went pale. Meridian Industries was Robinson & Associates' second largest client, worth $8 million annually. That's not possible. "We have a contract." "Had a contract," I corrected. "They exercised the 60-day termination clause last week. Apparently, they weren't satisfied with the results of their last campaign. The campaign Samuel Murphy had led. The one that had resulted in a 15% drop in customer satisfaction and a social media backlash that had cost Meridian significant brand equity. "This is about revenge, isn't it?" Dennis's voice was tight with anger. "You're trying to destroy everything we've built." "This isn't about revenge, Dennis. It's about results." I pulled out my tablet and showed him the proposal we'd developed for Meridian. "They came to us because they heard about our work with Henderson Industries. You remember Henderson? The account you wanted me to manipulate the numbers for?" His jaw tightened. "What about Henderson? They're now our largest client. After we helped them rebuild their brand reputation using authentic customer engagement, their market share increased by 30%. They referred us to Meridian." The elevator arrived, and we stepped inside together. The silence was deafening until Dennis finally spoke. "You know, when I said you weren't executive material, I meant it as constructive feedback." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something I'd never noticed before. Fear. He was afraid of change, afraid of the industry evolving beyond his understanding, afraid of being left behind. "I know you did," I said softly. "And you were right. I wasn't executive material for Robinson & Associates. I was something different, something better. You can't just waltz in here and steal our clients." "I'm not stealing anyone, Dennis. I'm offering them something you can't. A marketing partner who cares more about their long-term success than short-term profits." The elevator opened on the 15th floor, where the Meridian meeting was being held. Dennis grabbed my arm as I stepped out. "Claire, wait. Maybe we could work something out. A partnership, perhaps. You could come back, lead the new division." I turned to face him, and for the first time in our professional relationship, I saw him clearly. Not as the intimidating authority figure I'd spent years trying to impress, but as a man clinging to outdated methods in a rapidly changing industry. 6 months ago, I would have been grateful for that offer, I said. But now, I'm building something that will make Robinson & Associates irrelevant. That's quite a claim. It's not a claim, Dennis. It's a promise. 2 hours later, I walked out of Robinson & Associates with a signed contract worth $12 million. But more than that, I walked out with validation that the path I'd chosen was the right one. As I stood on the sidewalk outside the building where I'd spent 8 years of my life, my phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. "How did it go with Meridian?" I typed back, "We got them." And Dennis Ross finally understands what executive material really looks like. That evening, I sat in my new office, a space filled with natural light and positive energy, where my team of 12 brilliant professionals worked on campaigns that actually made the world a better place. On my desk was a framed photo from our company launch party, showing me surrounded by the people who'd believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. Claire Robinson, Authenticity Marketing Solutions. "Ms. Robinson, this is Troy Moore from Pinnacle Ventures. We've been following your company's remarkable growth, and we'd like to discuss a potential expansion opportunity." I smiled, settling back in my chair. 6 months ago, I'd been crushed by 5 words. "You're not executive material." Today, I was building an empire based on the exact qualities that had supposedly disqualified me from leadership. As I listened to Troy's proposal, I realized that Dennis Ross had done me the greatest favor of my career. By showing me what I didn't want to become, he'd freed me to become everything I was meant to be. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is being told you're not good enough for something you've outgrown. Sometimes the rejection that breaks your heart is actually the push you need to build something extraordinary, And sometimes the boss who says you're not executive material is really just afraid you're about to prove that you're something much more powerful than he could ever imagine.